The increased awareness of residential schools over the past few years has left me feeling conflicted. Although the discovery of the mass graves has made people in Canada wake up in a sense, it's still frustrating because we as Indigenous people have always known about the reality of residential schools, the reality that Indigenous children were victims of brutal crimes that resulted in death. So although I'm glad people are finally realizing the gravity of what has happened, it's also very disheartening because our voices were ignored and continue to be.
So a story that stuck with me is, okay, so my grandmother, right? She loves telling stories, like good and bad, but there was this one that really stuck with me, like over the years, and she went to a day school here on the reserve, and she said she like would always tell me about like what her and her classmates went through, because so one day I think she was late, or she wouldn't stop talking. She's loud like me. She can be loud like me. But she said she remembers a nun kind of getting mad at her, and they would use like rulers or something to hit her hand. And she said she thought that was all she was going to get, but it wasn't, like nothing. The nun picked her up and like threw her in a closet, and it had like hangers in it and everything, and she ended up like getting a giant scar like right over her temple. So it's like that close to her temple, and she could have died because if you get hit in the temple too hard, right? And she kept it a secret from her mom, my great grandmother. And one day my Mimi Rena was brushing my grandmother's hair for school, and she brushed right over that, and my Mimi asked what happened, and she wouldn't say. Like, she didn't want to get the teacher in trouble. Like, you'd think, like, out of like all the bad stuff that the teachers there, the nuns did to her there, and she didn't want them to get in trouble. Like my Mimi really thinks about other people that way, even if it hurts her. So when my grandmother figured out what happened, she went down to the school and she told off the nuns, and the nuns like treated all my great aunts and my Mimi like royalty for like a day, wouldn't touch her or talk to her or anything, and but that only lasted for a day, and it was back to the regular like rulers and all that stuff. And that story, like, it really stuck to me because like I know all my aunts and all my uncles and my grandparents, they each had their own individual story like that, and stuck to me because there's like, I think there's 11 of them. Like, it was a big family, and they all had their own stories, and it all affected them in different ways, you know. Like, obviously the older ones, my grandmother was one of the older ones, but the older ones went through a lot more than the younger ones did, you know. So I kind of think like that's how my Mimi is the way she is. My Mimi can be really quiet and kept to herself sometimes, unless she's around people who she's comfortable with. And I didn't know why she would be like that, because my Mimi likes to stay home a lot. Like, she's a homebody now, and I always used to wonder, I was like, why don't you want to go anywhere, or why you stay home? And after I heard those stories and that particular story, it helped me like understand why she can be how she is. And for me, that's really important, knowing why people are the way they are, because it helps me understand them more. I don't want to be like the person that like judges someone, because like people all went through stuff. Like, I've gone through stuff, my mom has, like, so I like to be able to know people so I can base them on like what they've went through to help me understand them more. So that story, it kind of helped me like understand that people aren't always the same. Like, people go through different challenges all the time, and that story really stuck out for me, like, to me, for that reason.
If I could speak to my teachers and principals about being an Indigenous student, I would tell them that there are needs that need to be met that haven't been yet. We need more representation of our culture throughout the school. We need not only Indigenous youth, but all youth and faculty to be learning about our histories, philosophies, traditions, teachings, and worldviews. We need language classes with the native tongue from wherever our school is situated. And we need to create places where these Indigenous students not only feel safe, but feel welcome, respected, supported, and proud. We need to lift these kids up and not tear them down.
I think I speak for most of us when I say this, that we kind of feel like we have nobody at the school. I don't know, saying that, like, we don't have anybody to stick up for us besides, you know, our peers, or like our friends and stuff. Like, we don't have any teachers who will back us up or anything like that. Because if we get in trouble, then we really have nobody to back our story up. It's just our story against theirs. So our principal and our vice principal, they were standing right there giving a lecture on how we should stand up for O Canada. With our history with the government and the government today, it really hasn't, like, it doesn't give us a purpose really to stand up and be like, you know what, yeah, like, you guys did a good job taking our language away and all that. Like, they're trying too hard and pushing too fast for us to forgive them. You know what I mean? And it's not that easy. It's just, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever forgive them. And they can throw money at us and all that, but I mean, that's not going to bring back our language or nothing. They need to let us feel welcome, not push us to feel welcomed. Because I feel like that's what they're doing, and they did do to a lot of us. And I feel like, I hate to say it, but I feel like the racism is coming back a little bit, but it's not coming back as hard. It's not coming back as harsh. It's coming back slowly, and it's coming back like it's coming back like just so other people don't see it.
The one thing we could do to improve the relationship between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people is to have a better curriculum in schools that would teach the young, impressionable generations about Indigenous people and the importance of reconciliation at a young age, so they carry that with them when they're older and hopefully reflect that for the rest of their lives.
I felt when I was at Off Reserve Elementary School, it was definitely way harder for me, because just to not feel that warm welcoming as I was back at home, you know, just going to school with the friends you hang out with every day after school, or just simple things, you know, like swimming with them or going over their houses. Just you always get that comfort when you go. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you never really had that at Off Reserve School. It's just always like you got really judged. I felt, especially growing up, I just felt, I don't know, judged.
What is unique about being an Indigenous student is the multidimensional worldview we produce through Western schooling. Before starting kindergarten, we are already learners, with teachings and land-based learning being a part of everyday life within our communities. Already at the age of 4 and 5, our young minds are adopting a multidimensional view of the world, incorporating both Indigenous knowledge systems and Western knowledge systems. As Indigenous students, we usually don't have the luxury of learning education in our communities. We also aren't represented in the schools that we do attend. We don't get to learn about important people from our culture in history class. We don't get to learn our language in school. What's unique about being an Indigenous student is that through my entire school career, I had to learn about a stranger's history and philosophies.
If I could tell my teachers or peers or anything, just treat people normal. Treat people how you want to be treated. I always say that because it's such a good thing to go by, you know.